Salty programmers are everywhere right now. Check this out. So this dude hit me with the "you know nothing, Jon Snow" on my last video, and sure, maybe he's technically correct, but you saw the old guy who cut spaghetti with scissors. Technically not correct, but effective? Absolutely. This video is going to celebrate non-coders and talk about all the ways that non-coders are more effective than programmers, because this guy is a prime example of many conversations I've seen online where somebody demands to be technically correct, so they miss the entire point and end up not doing anything special with the skills that might actually be irrelevant now because no one needs a coder anymore. I know, it sounds offensive. My brother's a programmer. He's been coding for decades, and he built an entire bank for Dave Ramsey. The guy's good. And he vibe codes now too. He's got a bot. He tells the bot what to do. We've got a business together, and the bot does all the code. And he steps in when the bot isn't smart enough. And even though I'm not a coder, I do the same thing all the time. Like, I'm building something on Lovable as we speak, and half the time I have to tell the bot, hey, you're coding this wrong. But I digress. Let's start with the first accusation here, and let's talk about the point. I'm going to bring up some other ones. So he said that APIs are not dead because of MCP, that they're two completely different things depending on your infrastructure or whatever. And yeah, a bot needs an API key, right? Right now. If you're going to communicate with OpenClaw or something, you need an API key. You know, if you're local, you don't need an API key, right? I've got a Mac 64 that's got a bunch of local models, and I don't necessarily need an API key to work with my agents locally. So technically, you don't need an API key to use MCP. And the point of yesterday's video, which is so powerful for all of you, is MCPs have made API calls obsolete in large, is what I said. I'm gonna die on this hill, okay? I built a solution for my company, Revande, that does $1 million per month. No, I'm not a coder, okay? But I've built a product for $1 million per month business as a business owner, and I've gotten results, right? Non-coder gets results, headline news. And I'm using MCP connections with my agents, where when we have a new client onboarding, it initializes a handshake with an MCP connection using a token. And MCPs don't necessarily require API calls, right? Most websites online are now using MCPs, so your ChatGPT can go find out information for you and come back with information in a better way than it just scraping the internet. Watch yesterday's video for that, okay? But if you have your own MCP on your own website where you can dock it to an agent and the agent can initialize a session and communicate you with your website in a session, and you force it to have a bearer token for security, now your agents are essentially doing something that APIs can't do. API calls are very like asynchronous and linear, which is post, I'm going to do something with an API token. Get, I'm going to get something with an API token. And every single action is stateless, right? Just like an agent can be stateless or stateful. So an MCP is a stateful API call, essentially. And this guy is going to say, you don't know shit about software, and that might be true. But I know enough to get results for my business. And this is something that you guys should all do. Make all of your websites MCP friendly, set them up to have private bearer tokens for your own bots, and then they can go work through your websites and do multiple things. I'm connecting my agents to all of my websites and all of my products, from my Airbnb portfolio to my coaching program to Revande to the B&B Photo Factory. I've got projects that make money. And no, I'm not a programmer. Lasai. There's another one that they argued with me on the internet. A cron job isn't code. Well, it's either blood or it's binary, my friend. Sure, a cron isn't necessarily a code, but it's been coded. How does a cron job execute, right? I don't go to Johnny Cron Job and say, hey, can you do me a favor? It's not a human on the street. It is a line of code somewhere. A computer runs it. A cron job is code. But somebody in a Facebook group wanted to argue a technicality, which was outside of the point of the conversation. And the reason why this conversation even came up is because agents will do whatever you tell them to do, and they'll bypass your constraints when you tell them to do something. You're like, go to this website and do X, Y, Z. And because you said it in your Telegram chat thread, it's going to try to accomplish things, and it's going to bypass the constraints that you put in the bootstrap file because you, the human god, said to do it. But if you set up a cron job where it says that every day at 6 a.m., go to this website and do something, now your bot will go, hey, this was a message that didn't come from my user in the Telegram chat thread. I'm going to look at this more suspiciously, and then it will actually look through its constraints and go, should I follow this order? So that's why the conversation came up. But dude, completely skipped the conversation. Just a bitch about how people don't know that cron jobs aren't code. That's not the point, my guy. The point of the conversation was trying to understand why an agent will bypass its constraints in one scenario, but not bypass its constraints in another. Nothing to do with whether cron jobs are code. And this is exactly the reason why coders are getting left behind. They're getting murdered right now because these guys spend a lot of time to be average, to know technically what's supposed to happen and not supposed to happen. And they want to beat the world up over technicality because that's where they capture their value, is arguing with people about what shit means. But they're not getting any results in life. Because if they got results and they were prioritizing results, Goodhart's law, right? Then they would be cool with people being semantically inaccurate for the sake of getting to results faster. And that's actually kind of the point of this channel. Romancing Robots is about how to talk to robots to get the result. It's not about being technically correct. It's about saying things in a way that gets results. I've been a coach for nearly 2 decades. I've taught sales, I've taught short-term rentals, I've taught all sorts of things. And the key to communication is to get someone to understand what you're saying. That's it. And now that distinction is tenfold, because not only do I need to say to you things that you understand for the sake of this video, and maybe you like the video and subscribe for more content, but when I talk to a bot, I need to understand how the bot thinks and what the bot is going to do with my words. And the way that I phrase a sentence will determine how many tokens a bot's going to burn to get something done, what biases it carries into the job. I can load it with biases, weights and balances. I can give it a starting point that's completely different in just a few words, and where it originates regionally inside of the LLM will govern its logic. And that's how LLMs work. There's these regional points of activation. So if you say something one way, it's going to activate regional clusters in the LLM, and it's going to start to patch things together from there. And this is why people say, you're a star programmer. Here's your prompt. You're an interior designer. Here's your prompt. You are a world-class chef. Here's your prompt, right? You're trying to activate a regional cluster in a bot. And those are child's play compared to what you can do. In a future video, I'm going to talk about context compression in a really cool way. And for people who pay API calls to Anthropic, to OpenAI, and they're burning tokens and they're paying per use, your ability to have context compression and expand the context inside of Anthropic in the cloud is awesome. Where if you try to do this locally with your Olama, like a Gemma 4 or the Quen 3.5, which I love, by the way, context compression can cause hallucination or distortion. So locally, you want to be very clear and deterministic about what you want from your bot. But to save some tokens, you can take these frontier APIs and say, cognition, Sherlock Holmes, shadow, Ahab, scene, matrix, right? And you can give it key value pairs that have tons of meaning. And within 14 or 15 words, you can have a 2,700 word descriptor of what your agent is supposed to do. Where this would be a waste of your time locally because it's got to grind out and try to extrapolate what you mean. But like Claude and OpenAI, they'll get it. And you can get so much context expansion for 14 or 15 words. And your bootstrap file for your OpenClaw agent can experience the benefits of this, and you will save massive amount of tokens. This is situationally where it's correct to do one thing in one environment and it's incorrect to do another thing in another environment. There is no one size fits all for how you should bootstrap your agents, depending on what model they use. And that has nothing to do with programming. And here's another hot take. Because anybody can code, prompts are where it's at. I've built a ton of vibe-coded products. I've built one that's a workflow for people like me, Airbnb hosts who don't know how to make content. You tell it what you want. You give it some of your favorite content that you find throughout the day. It's got like a bin. You find a piece of content, you find a link, you just hand it to your app. I'm like, hey, assistant. It's almost like those softwares that capture your receipts. You take a screenshot of your receipt, you store it away, something like that. And it collects the things that you like. And you tell it what you like about the post later. You're like, all right, I want to make some content. And remember that dog post? I like the typography and the colors for that. But remember the Tony Robbins website? I really like their storytelling. So you strap together a few things that you like and why, and you say, but the content I want is like, I want reasons why you should stay at my Airbnb. And then the software takes a bunch of prompts that are pre-designed and tries to understand what you want, builds a story, builds a narrative, creates the content, and then next thing you know, you have a carousel post of 9 photos that goes, photo number 1, here's your hook. Photo number 2 is more tension building. Photo number 3 is like the thing that you don't understand about the industry. Photo number 4 is like some form of resolution, and then drives through. And my software builds narrative arcs and then creates photos that fit the narrative arc, and all 9 photos fit into a carousel post. And nobody does this. right? But it's not just the code. Sure, we're using code so people have a website that they can go through, but all of the work is done through prompts. And this is where programmers suck. Sure, you can code, right? I do a little bit of Python. I do a little bit of PHP. I do a little bit of JavaScript. I had a MySpace account. I know what HTML is, right? And they're going to be pissed I said that. But beyond that, once you have a website that does hello world and you got buttons that work, in the age of AI, your ability to get an AI on the back end to do what you want it to do with English, you're a star programmer. Evaluate this code base to make sure it's properly refactored and doesn't have any TypeScript errors, right? Something like that. Your ability to get AI to do what you want with words is all of the power. And this is why programmers are salty. It's because there's average, everyday people who know how to tell a story, who know how to turn a metaphor, who took creative writing in school and did a good job with it. These people are now way more powerful than the everyday programmer because English is a programming language now. It's the coolest thing. And so my success with AI is from me being a coach, me understanding how to give just the right amount of information so somebody doesn't get lost along the way, and understanding that once you tell them A, you'll eventually need to tell them B, and then C, and then D, systems thinking. And so an agent will follow all of my steps and not get lost. I've got bots that'll work 6 hours a day. I can give them a chain of prompts, I can give them a scaffold, and they'll work for 6 hours. And I tell you, a programmer would look at what I do and they'd be offended. They're like, you're doing this wrong. I'm getting results. Again, Goodhart's law. We measure the outcome and you'll be pissed about the way that we did it. If you're not a programmer and this is you, I would love to hear your stories in the comments. I have had so many arguments with people who are trying to tell me how wrong I am, how I'm a savage for the way that I'm using AI in my businesses. But you know what? This is a new world. It's all happening so fast. And I'll take the results I'm getting. I've got my photo factory. It's making a passive income. I've got Revande. I've got agents handling my onboarding so I can just handle a rate strategy. I've got a new product we're working on that's going to take all my Zoom sessions with my students and turn it into short form content where we transform the background. So I can be just like this on a Zoom call with my laptop. And the AI is going to find the good bits and transform it into what looks like to be a podcast environment. These are the results we want. Who cares if it's coded the right way? As long as you get the results you want. I don't give a fuck if you're technically correct, right? It doesn't matter if you're technically correct. It's if you get the results. And if you want results, is what I'm saying, subscribe to this channel because I am a business owner. I find a way to get shit done. I'm ADHD. I obsess over everything. I've got multiple businesses that do 7 figures a year, and I'm starting to get results with AI. And I'm a bit new, right? So this journey is also going to include me failing. And if a software guy is right and I get kicked in the face and I lose a few teeth along the way, you're going to see it on this channel. You're going to see some good stuff, some real stuff, including my mistakes. So thank you for watching this video. Yesterday's video that he got mad about is going to be right here. And as always, I'll see you on the other side.